Welcome to the Long Term Podcast.
What's up? This is so cool.
Cordae Hall, everyone. So, what role have sports played in your life growing up, and do they still play a role today?
Man, what a question. Sports in general has played a significant role in my life, like more significant than anything else. When I first started, I was about 6 or 7, and my mom always had this mentality that, like, hey, you got to put your kid in something, whether it's a sport, it's chess is technically a sport. So if you want to say chess too, but whether it's a sport, an activity, dance, whatnot, you got to put them in something to keep them engaged and keep their mind moving. So I didn't really get that at the time. Obviously, I'm 6 or 7, but once I started playing, I started loving, scoring goals, meeting new people, assisting on certain things, on plays, depending on what sport. For me, I started off with soccer, just typical Timbits and whatnot. Once I got into intermediate level, I started doing selects, but it was around, I think it was grade 7 or 8 is when I started playing American football. And that completely changed my life. I mean, the fact that we're going from a sport where it's a lot about skill and kind of technique like soccer towards brute force and just out muscling people was a very humbling experience at first, but it was amazing. And it impacted the rest of my life in terms of time management, dedication, discipline is a really big one. And it's the same with a lot of sports, but football discipline is huge just because it's legitimately a live version of chess. Like, you are watching two teams go at each other, moving up and down the board, and 5 yards could cost you a championship, right? 5 yards could also gain you a championship. So it's about using your mind and your body as one. And that is what really got me passionate about it. And it just kind of spread out through the rest of my life in terms of law and school and even hanging out with friends and whatnot.
Yeah. What differentiated it from the other sports that you've played?
It was honestly the mix of mind and body. Every sport has mind and body, especially like hockey, soccer, basketball, and whatnot. But football, mind and body is a totally different thing, just because your body could literally give out before your mind does, right? It could go as easy as, oh, I just got a cramp at a play, so I have to take a couple plays off, and that could drastically affect the game. Or it could be, I just tore my ACL, and that's a year, sometimes even more long recovery. And I know people that have gone through that, and it's been excruciating. I'm lucky that I've never been able to, or not able, but I've never been unfortunate enough to have an injury like that. But in terms of just overall, it just, I can't even describe it. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's all I can say.
Well, football is one of those sports where there's just like, there's a lot of risk involved.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much brain injuries surrounding it, and there's a lot of competition because everybody, the Super Bowl comes up, right? It's just gets people riled up, and it's such a lively culture.
Yeah. It is a culture unlike any other sport. And like I said earlier, I'm very lucky that I've never had a serious injury. But yeah, like you said, football is it's a different beast. It is wild. It is super fun, but it is super wild at the same time. And then, as we were talking about before we actually started, it's one of those sports where after you're done, there's no way to get back. Like, you can always go play shinny hockey or go play recreational soccer, but you can't go put on the pads again and go hit someone, right? Your body will give out a lot earlier. So it's just one of those things where you just got to live in the moment.
Yeah, nobody has, usually when I talk to people that have stopped playing sports, they usually, if it's hockey, they'll play in like a beer league.
Yeah.
They'll play in some sort of kind of rookie field. But within football, nobody really does that. It's not normalized. Eh?
No, there's flag football, but so instead of tackling and stuff, you just rip a flag. But it's not the same, right?
Yeah, no, it's not.
It's not the same. It's like no name cereal compared to Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Like, you know which one's better, and you know which one's healthier, but you got to go with the good stuff.
Yeah. What have been some of the best experiences that come to mind playing football?
Oh man, there's a lot for sure. Right off the bat, Shout out to my guy Jackson Hume. He plays on the Golden Bears. I remember when I was young, I think it was my first year of football. We were going to a city championship game, and we are returning a kickoff. So that's when the opposing team kicks the ball to us to start, our turn on offense. Jackson catches the ball and he runs for about 60 of the 105 or 110 yards. And he spins out of 3 tackles.
Oh, geez.
Like legitimately, he's running in a straight line and he spins once out of a guy. And then he keeps going and he spins again out of another guy. And then he spins a third time before he gets tackled. And I was sitting there. Well, I was running alongside him blocking. But I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Yeah. Like I've never seen something like that before.
How'd that feel?
It was amazing. It was amazing, especially when we won after. Being a little kid experiencing that, it was like, holy man.
Yeah, you're hooked.
Right. I was legitimately hooked. It was good.
Yeah. You get to see that what you guys planned prior actually worked. Exactly. Right. And going back to you mentioning chess, where it's like all these different moves, right? And I did play football for I never actually played in any games. At 4 months in, I didn't even get that long. I was just there for the practice, but what I remember from my experience is just all these different code names, and then beef yakisoba was one of the code names, and there's all these little dots on a map or on the field, and it would just declare where the QB was going and the wide receivers, and just to see them all go in their own ways is just absolutely beautiful, man. Yeah, it's remarkable. Do you play chess?
A little. I'm not as surprisingly. It's not surprising, but it's super cool. At the Golden Bears, there's a lot of people that play chess against each other. They'll have tournaments and stuff like that.
Does that help in football? I'm sure it does.
Absolutely.
In a way, hey?
Yeah. Thinking about it for sure, because you're immediately doing what you are as a coach. Because as a coach, you're trying to plan what they're going to do to your move and how you're going to counteract that. So it's exactly like football in that sense, because you have your pawn, right? That could be your simple, just go to everyday play, and you're setting up for something big. Could be a screen, could be a deep pass, right? But you can't tip your hand too early, right? So that's exactly like chess, right? You want to make it subtle and then boom, go in for could be the bishop first, then go for the queen and whatnot. So it's basically like that. It's fascinating. It is so cool.
And predicting the move. So, if their wide receiver goes there, I gotta predict my move, and they're gonna predict what I'm predicting, right? And so you constantly have to be 4 or 5 moves up ahead. Oh, if I spin this guy's onto my left, and it's just you really have to have the automatic reactions in there, and also have the long-term plan, or else it won't work out.
That's exactly it, right? Yeah. And that's just for the game. We didn't even touch into the practices behind the scenes. It gets crazy as you go up, but it is so fun.
Yeah. What were the practices like?
Oh, for a person not familiar with sports, it could be deemed really grueling. But for someone like me who has played, or even you, I know you're a marathon runner and whatnot, you might enjoy some of the workouts and some of the practices and whatnot. During the winter, for instance, I won't go too deep into it, but during the winters, in the off season, we had 6 a.m. workouts. So for me, I started my day I got up around, I think it was 4:20 in the morning. I'd get up and make sure I brush my teeth and whatnot. I would never eat breakfast because I know we're training hard and there's a tendency for a lot of people to throw up. So I didn't want to have that myself. I wouldn't eat anything. I would just eat afterwards. But get up, relax, chill, pack my bag for school too as well. And then, we would go. Workouts started at 6, but you had to be there 5 to 10 minutes early. We do our lift, and then we would switch sides. So one group is in the gym, the other group's on the field. Then we would switch after about an hour or so. We'd do our workouts there as well. And then we'd go off for the rest of our day and kind of do our thing. During the summer, we'd work a lot of jobs too. For me, I did landscaping and bartending. For other people, they went back home. But it's just kind of that structured routine. And then once you get into the in season, it's more structured, but it's still a lot of fun.
the establishing discipline in my life has definitely just made me from a person that was, always immersing themselves into chaos, into just being able to sharpen a sword so sharp that I can slay the dragon,
Yeah.
like having these early morning workouts and then having all these different, a myriad of feelings come out at you. It doesn't matter because your coach is there and your teammates are relying on you, and you have to be on that field that day. Because it's like, why do you get the day off when everybody is there?
Exactly.
Right. And that kind of just floods into other aspects, into like your job, schooling. It's like being there for friends.
Yep.
It's like there's just some days you just don't want to do it, but you have to.
Oh,
and
yeah.
There's this quote of, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems, by James Clear. And it's, you can want something so badly, hey? Like all of us, everybody wants to be rich, famous, the successful in a loving relationship. But if you don't control your emotions, if you don't put in the action, if you don't establish the habits, all that won't come into fruition.
Absolutely.
But having all these, like the training regiments and having the rules in place to ensure that you guys optimize for success, that's ultimately what makes the difference.
Oh yeah, big difference. And it sucks too, but sometimes you could do all that and it not go your way.
Yeah.
And on the flip side, like you said, there's going to be some days where you really don't want to get up at 4:20 in the morning on a Tuesday in June, right? It's plus 40, plus 30, you're tired, you're hot, right? But you just got to go do it, and it pays off, because even though you might not win the day or win the week or even win the big championship, it's a stepping stone towards after football. And that is what has really impacted me, is that I used my, maybe not failures, but shortcomings in one aspect to motivate myself to do better. And that transcended sport and went into other aspects of life too.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that? So it just in relationship or school? Like do you see a overlap, hey?
Yeah.
Between the competitive nature of sports and your ambitions for law school or politics? Like, can you elaborate on the whole scope of that?
Oh yeah. So for me, it was last year that I quit football. Very tough decision, obviously, but I wanted to have time to do LSAT study. That is the law school admission test that you have to do before you can apply, depending on the universities, but we'll skip all that jargon. But yeah, so it was tough, but once I quit, I realized that in my studies, I was the same way. I had a specific time that I wanted to study. I would at least do a minimum of a certain length. So for me, it was at least a minimum of 2 hours of study. From there, I would take breaks in between every so often to kind of recenter myself, kind of like we did with football, right? And some days I got almost all the questions right that I did, and I felt like I was going to get a 180, and that's the highest score you can get. But I felt like I was going to rule the world. And then other days you get like 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7, and you feel like throwing your laptop through the window. But like with football, right? You just you got to have short-term memory. That was one thing our coaches always talked about, was having short-term memory. You're not going to succeed at a lot of things that you do. But if you dwell on it and keep it in and fester and think about, oh, if I would have done this and I could have done that, or if I didn't do this, this would have happened, it's just going to ruin the rest of your future path, whether that's 5 minutes down the line, 5 years down the line, right?
Yeah. The way I see it is, yeah, it's okay to scan the past because there are some key fragments in there that you can derive value from. But to the extent that most of us do it, it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
Like if you leave a person to their natural state, they will continue to ruminate on things over and over. Like this chick just rejected me, just I don't want to skip all the jargon, right? And it was just, I was in Mexico. I just got back like a couple days back, but yeah, I met this chick, had a good time. Then she ghosted me, and I'm in my head, I'm looping it. I'm like, what did I do? I should have gone through this conversation instead of that? Like, did I use this word properly? Did I come off disrespectful? But at that point, that was the best that I could have done. Like, I respected her, and I just made sure it was laughs and all this. There's no point in going back in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's to take the lessons from there and then just have that short-term memory and just go on forward.
Exactly. You know? We've all been there. I've been there too. So luckily I'm out of the game a little now, but I was there for that. Yeah. I know where you're coming from. And and that's where football is like too. One thing that we do is we do a lot of film study. So we'll watch ourselves practice, we'll watch ourselves play, and we'll watch the other team play as well and kind of gain our habits through that way. So you can see kind of the parallels in that we're preparing for the future by looking at the past. But once that past is gone and once we go through a play, it's done. Like there was a time where I had a really bad practice and I was dreading film study because, coach is going to highlight it, right? And then you don't want to get called out in front of 110 other guys, right? But like you get that antsy feeling, that pit in your stomach. He's going through the plays. And then he gets to my play and he's like, Cordae, you know how to do better. Like, I'm not going to harp on you. You know it. And it's kind of like, wow, like I spent all my time ruminating on the past about how that one play that I did in practice is going to cause me to be embarrassed in front of the team. Maybe I'll get caught. Maybe I won't play football anymore. And then the time came and he's like, hey, Cordae, I trust in you. You'll be good. And it was like, oh, like, wow, I ruminated on that for so long that I made it a bigger deal than it is. And even though, right, as we continued going on with film, I kept that in my mind, right? It never happened again. I never let that same play fool me. But it's just like what you said, right? Like we ruminate so much, but then when that time comes, it might be worse impactfully, but it might be better.
Yeah.
Right.
One thing I've internalized recently, and it's just from reflecting a bunch and journaling and seeing a pattern, is you're going to get to point B with the habits that you have and the actions that you take. Mm-hmm. But you can have a mindset of looking at your failures and just being upset about the things that didn't go your way and just not having a peace of mind. Or you can go about it and just have a positive mind and learn from the mistakes, right? Maybe you'll learn from both, but one is just a better feeling.
Yeah, it's way
like
better.
You'll get there, like in both scenarios, but it's just you didn't need to ruminate. And I always think of worrying, and I always question myself, and I go, is this meriting my life any positivity? Like, am I getting any net positive outcomes out of this? And more often than not, it's usually the case of, it's net negative. It's like you going through your head and you highlighting the things that went wrong and you suffering in your own imagination, when in reality, it's not that bad, Yeah. And you learn from it, you grow from it.
Exactly. That's exactly it, right? Like you hit the nail on the head right there. It is good to kind of reflect, but once you do it too much, that's when it starts to really affect you. Just like, for instance, if you're in the gym, right? There's only so many times you could do a 1 rep max before you need a long cool down in order to regain that muscle. But if you try and do a 1 rep max and then wait 5 minutes and do another one, it's not going to be as good. And then you're going to be, oh, I didn't hit the 1 rep max and I'm not good enough. And you see how that just plays in itself, right?
Yeah. And it's been really common, man, negative self-talk within our society. And I've never heard of it being a good outcome or a not positive, valuable aspect of life.
Exactly.
So why do we keep doing it? Right? It's just, it's terrible, but it's just the way she goes. And I think that to explain that in evolutionary psychology, I think it's because when we scanned the horizon for anything, it was usually because things were endangered, and the negativity is much more salient because it meant we would die if we didn't harp on that. Yeah. But in today's day and age, you're not gonna die. You know?
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no.
you'll be fine if you get a bad mark on that test, or if you didn't study enough. What are you gonna do next time?
Right? It's exactly like that. It's kind of hard, right? I sound like my mom or like any older generation person, but it's the social media. It happens with me too. It happens with everybody, right? When you're looking at people post their best photos or post their best videos, and you're, let's say, just on your couch on a Saturday afternoon, right, with nothing going on, you're gonna think like, oh, maybe I'm a loser. I don't have any money. I don't have any friends. I don't have a girlfriend or a significant partner, right? But really, it's like getting yourself in that mindset, and that's what football really helped me do. Even when it came to law school and other people, is getting locked in. Once you get locked in and you let all those other distractions kind of fall by the wayside, it really helps. Because like when I'm playing football, when I'm running a play against another team, right, for a game, I can't be thinking about I got a 62 in psych, or dang, I should have said this to this girl, or man, mom's gonna really get mad if I don't defrost a chicken, right? Like no, I gotta think about what I'm doing at what time and where I gotta go.
Is this quote of treat the body rigorously so the mind doesn't become disobedient, right?
Ah, see.
Yeah. So like when you go hard at something, usually I attain this in physical activity.
Yeah.
You just don't, you're worrying about your heart beating so fast and your leg cramping up,
Yep.
and just if you're doing things right within that moment. I think it's like the easiest way to attain being present, right? Because
Exactly.
throughout the day, we're constantly just like not in our own bodies. You know,
Yeah.
we're planning for the future. We're just wondering about the relationship. Like, oh, I haven't seen that friend in a while. It's been a long time. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll hit him up. Or I need to study for that. Or what am I going to do in my future? 10,
Yeah.
20 years? Oh, death? What if, oh gosh, like I could die at any time. I better start now. There's all these things. But when you're out there in the field, man, you can feel taste metal in the back of your throat because you're going so hard.
Yeah.
It's just, you got no time to think about all that stuff.
No, you have no
Yeah.
time. That's the best feeling. It's a great distraction. It helped me with other aspects. I was able to decompress and do other things and think about what I had to do, and that really helped with everything else, right? Like especially school. All of us, especially us in university, right? We're thinking about, is our degree useful? Do I need to go to after school? Right? What kind of job am I going to get? How do I start networking? Right? But for me, it was sports. For other people, it could be music. It could be singing, right? But getting into your, what I like to call rituals, is fundamental in order to live a good life.
Yeah. How do you access the nowadays when you don't have football practice or football games?
It's hard, right? Just because you're so used to that. I've been doing it for like 8 years or so, right? So finding your new purpose is difficult, but once you do, it's just as fun. And for me, it was, I'm a big comic book nerd, so now I'm starting to collect a little bit of comic books. And
oh yeah?
Yeah. And then I, obviously with law, that was distracting me a lot. So I've been focusing on that. And then you just find the simple joys, whether it's hanging with family, hanging with friends and whatnot, or doing this podcast, right?
Yeah. It's, a lot of people underestimate what they can do in a year, and they overestimate what they can do in a day.
Yeah.
You know, like you telling me about your passion when it comes to football, and you still have time to do comics, and I know you work at laser tag, you're doing your LSAT, you're in football, and you have family and friends, and you're still making time for this podcast. It's like all these things you can't do within like a day.
Yeah.
Right? There's just like, there's so many things.
Absolutely.
But if you stretch it out 10, 20 years, right? Every single day adds up. It adds up, and the rituals are there. And eventually you amalgamate all these skills and memories and experiences. And if you learn from every single experience, you'll just be unbreakable.
Yeah, exactly. It's really hard to learn every single thing for sure, but like at least if you pick up on one thing from an experience, for sure, that would be good. My mom always used to tell me, right, you make time for the things or people you want to make time for. So if you kind of stick to that regiment and do what makes you feel good, you'll make time for it and you'll find it enjoyable. But it's when you are booking yourself or overworking yourself with things that you maybe don't need to overwork yourself with, or you have just too much going on. It gets hard, but that's when you just got to rely on yourself, maybe your rituals, if you're religious, that as well. But even just talking to people, right? Meeting new people, talking to your close friends or whatnot, right? Like it helps a lot, because when I played, there's a lot of time to hang out with your football people, but there's not a lot of time to hang out with, people outside of that. So it was hard navigating, like, keeping my friends from high school while I'm training every day, right? So they go on trips and stuff and I can't go because I'm practicing. And it was tough for a little, but once you start talking to them and explaining to them my situation, as long as like I'm being truthful and whatnot, it really helped. And then they understood about what I was going through, and that kind of created a bigger bond for us.
That's the thing I find so fascinating is, I'm guilty of this too, is when our expectations are high, especially when we don't verbalize it, like we get angry at people, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, they don't understand us, they don't do this. But did you take the time to actually tell them what you're doing or how you're feeling, right?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. They just wouldn't understand. They're not mind readers.
Yeah.
Right. You gotta implement just honesty and vulnerability and just like the truth to your friends and family, so they know what you're going through, what your agenda is, and you can hopefully align that with the activities around. Like if you're going to law school, if you've got like a marathon coming up, or you just want to play this video game today just to decompress, right? It's just, there's all these modalities that you want to, depends on what you're feeling that day.
Exactly.
Right. What do you think sports can teach people about leadership, teamwork, or resilience?
Okay. I am one person that I fundamentally believe that people can grow into leaders. It is not something that is innate. So you could be born with it. You could be that lucky, but it grows. It grows in people, and depending on the situation, you may not be a leader, for instance, at your high school or your university, right? But you could be a leader to your friends or to your brother or other family members. And sports help me out with that, because I have to lean on a certain amount of people throughout a whole game, right? And others, if someone gets injured, so subs and stuff like that. I have to be confident that they know what they're doing, and they have to be confident that I know what I'm doing, right? So being able to have that bond with someone, that ability to connect with someone and know what to do on a certain situation, it transcends sports once again. In terms of leadership, right? Being able to be accountable, the fact that, hey, on days I didn't want to, I got up at 4:20, right? Along with the other 110 people on the team, right? That's accountability. Coming up 10 minutes early, right? You want to sleep in as long as possible. So getting up at 4:20 compared to 4:45 just so that you could be 10 minutes early, that shows your accountability. You're able to be depended on, right? People can depend on you for stuff, and they'll know that you'll come through. And that, once again, transcends life. It's a lot of things like that. And it's cliche. You hear about it with a lot of sports people. Like, yeah, you get to, help a team win and, grow as a person. But it's really true. It honestly is, right? And leadership doesn't have to be becoming class president or something. It could be as simple as, hey, I'm going to spend, right, an hour and a half, and I'm going to help my younger brother with his homework, right? And that's leadership.
Yeah. I like what you said about it. It doesn't have to be this grand thing where you're the CEO of your entire company. It could just be you're helping your brother with the dishes and you're giving him a little life lesson.
Yeah.
You're telling him about habits and how important they are, and that could establish discipline. Within that day, that's a small win. Like, I'm a big believer of celebrating the small wins, because everybody's got something that they can strive towards, that they can fill for their purpose and for the betterments of everyone.
Exactly.
Because I believe that if you find purpose and you find meaning onto the different things that you do, it could be sweeping. You know, you're making it better for your family, for yourself, and you're just making the house cleaner. And then within that, you just feel better about yourself. And that could cascade to other things that could motivate you to do maybe your homework, and maybe you want to work out more. And within that, you're moving around, right? You're gaining more exercise and more steps onto your day. And you said that a lot of these things are cliche, and yes, you're right. And there's this quote of like everything has been said, right? What we've talked about, you can find it everywhere, anywhere. There's ChatGPT, Google that can help you out. There's all these different books, but
famous people,
everything's been said, but nobody was listening. You know what I mean? Like, there's like so much advice out there that say, oh, like don't work too much, or prioritize your friends and family. And usually a lot of people come to the same conclusion, not the simple way, the hard way, right? Or it's like they lose their friends, or like they cheat on their wives or something, or they lose love, or like they focus too much on money and they sacrifice all their family members, right? Or they prioritize materialism too much, or they prioritize just looks instead of actually a connection. Like there's all these things that I know is right, but like I don't fully learn them up until I feel the miserable sensations. Yeah. And
no, I totally get that. I absolutely do. This reminded me of a paper that I did. It was on Chinese philosophy, and they talk about sharpening iron with like an anvil and whatnot, like, you know, your ironing tools, and also straightening the bend, or the like bended wood or whatnot. And that kind of alludes to what you're saying, in that being a leader you don't have to be Captain America, you know, star of the show, doing all these things, sacrificing your life for other people. It could be as simple as, you know, being a mentor to someone. And that's where the sharpening of the iron or the straightening of the wood comes in, because with that, you are able to, one, it helps you out, right? Because you're able to kind of develop your leadership skills and whatnot. But then B, you're mentoring someone for the next generation that could, you know, change the world. There's a lot of people, like, for instance, let's say like LeBron James, maybe he had a teacher that was his mentor, right? And she didn't know that was his mentor. And now LeBron goes on TV one day and shouts her out. And it's like, oh, shoot, like a insignificant thing like mentoring your younger brother or mentoring a student in a class turns into like a transcended type of life in which someone is happy and they're successful in whatever they're doing. Yeah. And that's that like sharpening of iron and like bending, you know, getting the straightening of the wood and whatnot. And that's kind of what you were alluding to.
Like all these little things, it may not mean much to you. It could just be, you don't even really have to go out of your way, right? You say some nice thing to someone, but that could be sharpening their wood. Right? Yeah. You could be the iron to their wood.
Yeah.
And you maybe you didn't even realize it. Maybe you don't even remember it, right? I've heard so many stories of people being told that they were gonna succeed, and this person believed in them that one day with one comment, and then they go and approach that person and they're like, what? I don't remember this happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when did I tell you that? Like there's so many of my friends, of people that I look up to, that have told me a myriad of things that I still think about to this day. And when I repeat it to them, they're like, I don't remember saying that. Are you like gaslighting me? Like, what is it? No, I remember you telling me that, like, my dad, if I learned one thing every day, then I would just amalgamate to something awesome.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think there's just so many. Right?
There's so many.
Yeah. So he doesn't remember much. So, but in that moment, with that time, that's when I needed it. Right. It's just going back to like the copious amount of information nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of what we said here can be found in books, if not better like it in a better form, maybe more, maybe better thought out, right? Because we're just having a conversation here.
Okay, I can see where you're
But
going.
maybe somebody's listening to here right now, maybe a buddy of yours, maybe somebody stumbled upon it, maybe they're doubting themselves, maybe they just really like football, or they just in their car. Like, shout out to whoever's listening to this.
Yeah,
I got this far.
I was gonna say that. Shout out, guys. Let's go.
Whoever's listening this far, you're the goats. Maybe we say something that just like puts them into action. Maybe they look at their kitchen like, it's kind of dirty, but I was listening to Advin and Cordae talk about the little things, and they just decide to clean their kitchen because of that. Mm-hmm. Isn't that just so beautiful? Isn't that just so, like, I'm a believer of free will, man.
Yeah.
And it's just like that type of, like, the chain reaction like that. Like I watched this movie, and it just looked at all the different, I think it was Crash. It was after like the 9/11 crash, when everybody was kind of on, their emotions were heightened.
Oh, okay.
It's got like Ludacris in there. It's got like Sandra Bullock, and it's got all these different people that are living their lives, but they don't know each other, and some of them overlap. And in the end, it does this beautiful way of connecting them all together, the good and the bad, and seeing just like the impacts that it has within the people. And we go through that day to day, right?
Yeah.
We're in class, right? That I just look over and be like, yo, what's up, Cordae? How was your day? You know, that kind of stuff where you look over Celine, and but they're living their entire lives in like separately. You know, it's crazy. The only time we ever get to see each other or that person is within that time
zone.
That day. You know, and it's just cool to see that how much butterfly effect is constantly happening with every single interaction.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Even when I was, another football story, a couple of months ago, I started working with the Edmonton Huskies, and I was introducing myself to one of the running backs, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember you. I played you in grade 12. Well, you were in grade 12. I was grade 11." And I'm there dumbfounded, because I'm like, this has been 5 or 6 years after grade 12. I don't remember that. I remember one play from that game in which he was referencing, but I never remember seeing his face. I never remember talking to him. We did a handshake line at the end of the game, I presume, and I always stay respectful for that. But yeah, to have an impact on a kid that big, where he remembers both my name, where I played, and what happened in that game 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, it's wonderful. Just like you said, with the butterfly effect. And that's just one thing in my life. There's probably stuff in yours with your friends, like you said. And even the fact that, like, hey, you just said hey to me in class one day, and now we're sitting here doing a podcast in your house.
Dude. Like, who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Like, that's the mysteries in the future. Hey, it's just like, it all makes sense looking back. Like, oh, it's because I said hi, and that person said this, and that day I was sick, and I messaged them, and now we build this rapport. And that presentation, you give him a fist bump, and I presented, and he presented, and we both back and forth, maybe sent some memes, right? And now we're here, and it all makes sense. But within that point, you had no idea, right? It all makes, in the past, it makes sense. All the answers are there, but in the future, it's just like, what am I? This is a mystery, right?
Yeah, it's a crazy one. It's so wild, but I love it.
Yeah. So you're going into law.
Yes.
And so what initially sparked your interest in political science, and how has that shaped your worldview?
Okay, so when I was younger, I actually didn't really care for the news like a lot of people, because it's depressing, it's boring, right? You don't understand a lot of the jargon and whatnot, especially as a little kid. But what got me interested in law was the fact that, like, also just like any other kid, you have your stereotypical 5 jobs you want to do. You want to be a police officer, a firefighter, a superhero, a cop, or a doctor, or a lawyer. That was 6, but you know, right? But yeah, so I had that set out. I've always been a planner since young, so I had my main goal and then backup plans. And I was kind of like, okay, I want to I want to do sports, see how that goes. But then quickly I realized that's not sustainable. If I get one injury, I'm hooped. So then I transitioned, and it was within grades 10 to 11, I started looking at law school, and I'm like, wow. And shout out Criminal Minds and Law and Order, the TV show. I know that's not like normal law. I know that for a fact. I'm not expecting to go make $700,000 representing people and stuff like that. But it just really got me interested in criminal justice, especially how in Law and Order, they do a really good aspect of this. Sometimes the bad people get away. Right. And there was an episode where this one person played by Vivica Fox was kind of like a human trafficker of sorts. And the police knew that she did it, and the lawyers knew that she did it. And she even alluded to it by referencing a nickname that was in all of the crimes and whatnot. But they just couldn't prove it. They knew she did it, but they couldn't prove she was the mastermind. And that episode stuck with me because it's like, wow, like some people get away, and I want to mitigate that as much as possible, especially coming from a lower middle class family. I don't want people who are, trafficking other humans to be walking around in my city, let alone my neighborhood, my street, right? So that really got me interested, and that's what sparked my interest for political science, because you need I fundamentally believe you need to create change, either indirectly or directly, in order to affect society. Indirectly could be, getting into political science, knowing what's going on in your surroundings, right? Being informed. Shout out political science, our class. Maybe do some pre-bunking or debunking and stuff like that. But yeah, and then also directly it's just get involved, right? Any way you can. And while I haven't gotten to that stage yet, I feel like it's coming soon, and that's kind of what keeps me motivated. Go vote in the federal election for whoever you want. Not saying you have to vote for someone, but just go do your civic duty.
I was listening to this podcast with this person that works in called criminal investigations when it comes to human trafficking for children.
Oh,
and yeah, it's crazy, man. And he said that the first thing that you have to, like, saving them is the first part, but then the second, the hardest parts is integrating them back into society after the damage is done. And just like stuff like, when I hear stuff like that, right, it's just like, how can you do that to other human beings
with no regard?
Yeah. Like, I'm always thinking of like 10, 20 years down the line. Like, I believe death is mercy in some cases, right? In a lot of cases, because like the suffering that follows with some cases, right? It's just like terrible.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
You know what I mean? Like, I of course we don't want to just kill people, but like the suffering that comes, it's like makes you think, oh, geez, all right, maybe death would have been better in this case, right?
I do want to advocate, though, that if you are, going through something, maybe if you're suicidal or not, or whatnot, please go talk to people, especially friends, family, people that love you. I get where you're coming from for sure, but there are ways to kind of mitigate the pain that you're feeling. I don't have the number right now. I think it's, is it 311 or 988? I think it's 988.
Yeah.
But yeah, Google it, right? Talk to your peoples. Hook me up if you ever want to talk. I'm a good listener, I've been told, and I don't judge. But yeah, I totally agree that for some people, death is mercy.
I'm not saying that is never the answer.
Yeah,
but like from what they've been through, it's like almost like a mercy thing. Hearing all these stories, and I wish there was just a cure to rid of all that trauma within the brain, right? Because mental health is a big problem, and that's something that we need more and more resources for, because after COVID, right, after even like with today's day and age with social media, there's all these myriad things that do plunge us into just misery. But it's important to be able to find resources and find kind of human connection, because it's at the end of the day, everybody's got value, everybody's got a purpose, and with enough time, they can build something that can change this world, and they can use that pain for something that they can learn from.
Absolutely.
Right? Because there's someone, I always think when I'm struggling, there's always someone going through it at the same time as me. If not the same time, somebody in the past or somebody that's going to go through it in the future. Now, I'm going to use this pain as something that will hold me back and that'll put me in a shell, or am I going to let it become something that fuels me, something that other people can derive inspiration from? They can go, hey, that guy went through the same exact thing, but they found light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And they learn from it. And it's just, there's all these stories that I follow. I don't know what it is about, like, people that go through tough accidents that they render them like in a wheelchair or with no arms or just everything cut off, or maybe some sort of disease, and they still find ways to be able to cope and still find meaning. I think those are like some of the most heroic people ever. Because like, and then that also gives me more meaning into kind of the discipline, and to like, it is a privilege, right? Like a lot of people would kill to be in our position, right? To be able to walk, to be able to talk, to see, to smell, to be able to sit down here and have a I don't want to be cocky, but intellectual conversation.
Okay.
Intellectual. But yeah, a lot of people just don't have that time, right? Maybe they got kids that they need to look out for. Maybe they got 4 jobs. Like this right here is a privilege. You know, I can do this just, you know, without having to worry about kids I need to feed, or, you know, just things that undermine my health. It's a blessing.
Yeah. Everyone has their own strengths for sure. And it's funny enough that you mentioned this, is just because law school is like that too. Getting into that kind of whole process of applying and whatnot, it really is beneficial to have the mentors and people that help you and guide you, like you were talking about, right? Just because, like, if you've been through it, there's people that are in law school that went through that same thing, whether it's a low LSAT, a low GPA, right? They didn't have enough extracurriculars. Their personal statement wasn't good enough. Whatever criteria, someone's been through it. I don't condone this, but during my process, I did go on Reddit a lot and look at those people and ask questions. I
do all the time too.
Right? Yeah. I met some great people. I made a couple friends off of there, and I even got a couple tutors too that helped me in that process, right? And I would have never gotten that if I looked at the Reddit post and said, well, they may be going through it, but, you know, it's awkward and it's like, it's anonymous, who knows, right? Or, you know, dismissing that. And that goes again to that butterfly effect you're talking about, because, for instance, perfect example, I was a part of the Black Future Lawyers, which is the first chapter in Western Canada, specifically trying to help Black people get into law school. Shout out to Nadia and Lucy. Those are the 2 creators of that chapter. Most of the chapters are in Ontario and whatnot. And because of those 2, they're actually creating chapters at UBC and other schools now. So they started a movement. And where did I find those 2? On Reddit. I saw a post saying, hey, we're looking to start a Black Future Lawyers chat, or a Black Future Lawyers club. Would anybody be interested? I immediately DM'd them. I found out that one of the people that was the creators, Nadia, very, like, incredibly talented, smart person. She's so dedicated, and she's just been a pleasure to work with. I knew of her because of a friend that I also met from Reddit when we were applying for a different law club, right? So, when I met and I introduced myself and we actually talked, I originally was trying to go for VP of social media or VP internal. I ended up getting vice president, right? And I would like to say it's a little bit of me, but honestly, it's just all not all, but mostly Nadia and Lucy. They did a lot of heavy lifting to get this project into an actual club, and it's affected people across Canada now. I was fortunate enough to go to the Black Future Lawyers Conference, the national conference in Calgary, because of them, right? I got to meet people, I got to network, and now I know people that are in UVic law, which I'm going to. So I already have a leg up, right? And that just all started from, Reddit and, just talking to random people, right? So it's just crazy how even if you put yourself out there in a way that's not really like forward in terms of, anonymous Reddit compared to you coming up to me in class, it could still have a big effect on your life.
Yeah, it's like a little thing that you didn't really, you just wanted to gain a little bit of information, a little bit of an edge.
Yeah.
Turned out to be something that amalgamated to something great.
Right.
They're UBC, you said?
Yeah, UBC's doing it.
Like, what? Like, how did you know? No, they didn't think that this would happen, prior to planning it. But then within the progress and actually putting effort and going back to discipline, right? And still putting in the time and replying to you and getting you on there.
Right.
It's like, and then now you went to a conference in Calgary and it's just like, now it's just on your resume.
Yeah.
Right? It's awesome.
And more importantly, it's not even the fact that it's on my resume. It's the fact that other people get a mentor that I didn't get when I was struggling through that. Because when I was in law, or when I was doing that whole process before getting into law, my family doesn't have any lawyers or whatnot, right? And some of the textbooks and stuff for law school, intense. 7 Sage for LSAT, that's the cheapest one you could get. It's $100 Canadian. I think it's, what was it, 60 or 70 US or something? I can't remember the conversion rate because it's been a while, but that was the cheapest one. And some go for like $400 or $500. You also get tutors that want $200 an hour, right? So the fact that I answered a Reddit post got me to a position where I could mentor people to get into law, which has happened. I've had multiple friends come up to me and say, hey, I'm interested in law. Could you help me out with this? And one of them just got into Dalhousie. So I take a little bit of credit for that. But mostly it's them and their dedication. And I was fortunate enough to be able to guide them in the right way by saying, hey, if you are interested in doing this, this is a process. You know my number. Contact me with anything you need and I'll help you. And yeah, now we're just kind of helping people help people. It's great.
Yeah.
This is what the world needs, especially in this time.
And then one day, when you need help from them, you just reach out, and it's just this reciprocation of just, you guys just end up having the support system, right? Somebody to lean on. And I'm a firm believer of, you don't get to a place of abundance and where you want to be in regards to your ambition alone.
Exactly.
There's all these things that need to happen with the interactions that you have, whether it be online that leads to an in-person interaction, or whether it be you bump to a person in the street, or you went to high school with someone. There's just all these things that build you up, right?
Exactly.
And that can serve to change people's lives.
Yeah.
What are there any political figures, past or present, who inspire you or influence the way you think about leadership?
For me, when I first got into political science or whatnot, there was not one specific person where I'm like, wow, that person inspired me. Obviously, I loved Obama, right? As a first Black president. I like political figures on both sides of the aisle, but it was just, there wasn't any specific person. It was like family. I remember hanging with my a funny story. It's just one time I was like maybe 10, 12 or whatnot, and I just remember I'm chilling with my grandparents and they're watching news, and I'm picking the little skin off of my grandpa's toes, right? Just keeping myself entertained. And then I look up and I see it's CBC News Network, and I start watching, and then I start asking questions, and that's when it led up to that, right? So yeah, for me, there wasn't one specific person, but once I got into my groove of loving what I love, which is political science, sports, comics, and things like that. I tend to fixate it on it a little bit, but I also tend to want to like share that wealth with everybody. That's why I'm super big on like, giving back. When I quit football, the first thing I wanted to do was coach, right? Not for money. I don't care for the money, right? I just want to help kids get into football, right? There's kids that get 4 or 5 scholarships to go to university, and then there's kids like me that had one, and that scholarship that I got was like a week before the winter workouts started, and that was because they were injured. And it turned into a 4-year affair of me playing and traveling and growing as a person, and hanging out with people that I love, and it just turned into that, right? So that's what I want to foster and give back. And football does have a negative stereotype of, coaches are yelling, we're all angry all the time. I try and be the chill coach just because, right? Like they could be going through stuff. And my coach when I was at university playing was both dedicated but super chill. I could come up to him with anything and we could talk. We would laugh. And but also when it came down to business, he'd give it to me straight up. And sometimes it would hurt. Sometimes I'd feel amazing. But yeah, it's just that's the type of leader that he was, and that helped me. So now I'm trying to pass it forward.
It's awesome. How do you navigate today's polarized political climate while forming your own stance and values?
First and foremost, back to our political polarization class, right? Yeah. Make sure you're checking your sources, whatever it is. We have a tendency, especially in our day and age with social media, we have a tendency to look at something and scroll and be like, oh, it must be true because it's on Twitter or it's on Instagram or an account that I normally follow says it, right? But we got to check our sources to make sure that what is being said is factually accurate. And if it's not, that doesn't mean you have to be the champion to call it out and to say this is misinformation or disinformation, but at least in the minimum to keep that in the back of your mind so that when it comes up again, you can be like, okay, I know this is false. For instance, when I was listening to the US when they were having their elections, the polls were saying, oh, Kamala's going to sweep Trump. Kamala's going to win. They got endorsed by Billie Eilish and Beyonce and all these people. And it was Beyonce's first ever time endorsing a political opponent. And what happened, right? Trump won, right? And for some people, they love that. For others, they hate it. But it's because of that, right? We fell into that trap of, oh, the polls say that Kamala's going to win. So it's obvious that she's going to win, right? And, oh, a celebrity that I really love, Beyonce, is endorsing her compared to Trump getting endorsed by Kid Rock, right? Like, oh, we obviously beat them, so she's going to win. And it turned out differently. So making sure that you're checking your sources and realizing that you got to take a lot of things, especially in political science, with a grain of salt, unless there's factual evidence, is very key. It's hard to do, but it is very key.
Yeah, it's like, where did this come from? Like, give it some second thought. Like, is this actually something that is reasonable? And if yes, okay, you look into it more, see if it aligns with other sources, because there's two opposite ends of the spectrum. One could just be, both of them could be inaccurate. And maybe the truth is right in the middle.
Exactly.
Which a lot of people tend to miss that when you're so emotionally driven. And what we've learned from that class is, like, it's not that bad, guys. Like, a lot of the policies are similar, right? And it's just like people get emotionally charged by the politicians because that's what drives attention, which drives votes, which drives loyalty. Right? What is it? Like false polarization?
Yeah.
Is that like that's when the people exaggerate the actions of the outgroup and no, I'm getting it wrong. It's just exaggeration.
No, yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's not like a specific person doing it, but it's, an example I use for my presentation is The Democrats are not very good as a political party. That would be one type of polarization. But then the false polarization could be the under end of the spectrum, where it's the Democrats are holding a secret underground human trafficking ring at the basement of a Pizza Hut, and it's run by Hillary Clinton and a bunch of Democrats. That's a real thing. It's Pizzagate 2016.
Yeah.
Not even joking.
Yeah.
It's a real thing, right? But that's a false polarization compared to Democrats aren't really the best political party to. They are running a criminal organization in the basement of a pizza parlor, right? Like just two totally different things. But yeah, exactly. It's hard because for some people, it is way more intense than for, let's say, like me or you. For someone who is low income and is an NDP supporter, right? They may need the free pharmacare, right? But someone else in Alberta, where we have a premier that isn't really interested in that, may be like, oh, I don't need free pharmacare. Like I could just pay for it myself. It's perfectly fine, right? But as long as we're getting our information that is accurate, then we could have that discussion all day. But it gets to be terrible and disingenuous when we're starting to have these conversations and it turns into a different aspect where it used to be about free pharmacare, but now it turned into, and another actual thing, Jagmeet Singh is only in his current position because if he lasts a little bit longer, he gets to secure his pension, right? That's blatantly insulting to say that someone's career, someone's job, someone who's motivated to help the position of others is only in it because of a pension, right? But that's the kind of way that we tend to go about these things when we have debates. So as long as we start off with our foundation of correct information, we can at least have a logical debate.
Yeah. It's when the seed is planted, it just grows to this just enormous tree that people don't even question where that seed came from.
Exactly.
It's like, does that actually make sense? Like what? Like, yeah. It doesn't. A lot of these things are so dangerous too, in the fact that if one person believes it and they're like a maniac, and they, in their hearts, they solely believe that assassination is like the grand purpose, or the grand purpose to be able to save everyone, right? And if you got people with like schizo, and like relaying that to the public is just so dangerous, man. It's exactly. Like it's terrible, and there's so many things that people justify their actions for because they believe it. They don't take the time to double check, to look at the sources, and some people just don't, and that's just the reality of it. And like, will we ever get rid of the misinformation? I don't think so. No, because like it's a tactic both sides use to get at each other, and even if the parties don't use it, the supporters will concoct something.
Exactly. You're like you said it. You said it. Especially considering, right? Like what gets headlines, what motivates people, but really, like it's just what helps them kind of relay the message in a way that they want it, right? For instance, even in our political climate, Trudeau, for his faults, right? He had some pretty bad mishaps, but this whole election thing started, not whole of it, but a large portion of what's happening right now started because he tried to push away or reassign his finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, into a different portfolio to bring in Mark Carney, right? That sparked a whole protest. And now Trudeau isn't even prime minister anymore. He had to step down from his party, and now he's living his own life. You see how just like one aspect, one choice just kind of changed the whole trajectory. And now we're having a political election between Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre instead of Trudeau and Pierre or anybody else. And that's just because of one action and then the misinformation that went into that as well.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's nuts.
Mm-hmm. So going to personal development.
Okay.
Yeah, big jump. But what's one personal challenge you've overcome that's helped you shape your character or ambition?
Oh, that's a good one. For me, I think the biggest thing was a mixture of over planning and self-doubt. So, and once again, it ties in football and law school kind of into a neat bow. But when I was in high school, I was really wanting to play college sports, right? I wanted to play, um, it had to be youth sports, in my opinion. I was naive in the sense that I didn't want to play for the Huskies or Wildcats, which is like, a junior football league. I wouldn't even say it's one step below U Sports or Canada West, which is university, but I'd say it's kind of like a 1B, just because a lot of people from the junior football league go on to play in college. And there's quite a few people that play in the CFL that used to play on a junior league, right? So there's multiple ways to get into like the CFL, the NFL, whatever it is. But at the time, I really wanted to play college, and I was getting messages from universities, but then they would ghost me, right? So then, and it happens a lot, or more than you think, but yeah, then they ghosted me. So I was getting really nervous. I'm like, okay, I was talking to UBC. Now they won't answer my messages. I was talking to Windsor. I was talking to all these other schools. And I remember one specific day, it was the end of the season. So I was sending out my highlight tape, and a school that normally was contacting me a lot was like, they just completely stopped looking at my messages.
Wow,
and I'm like,
it's just like my love life.
it's tough, right?
It's tough out there.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when you want it that bad. But yeah, they stopped. And then it went into a whole spiral. I specifically in gym class, I was just more agitated when we were playing sports because I was antsy to get that. And I could see it affect other aspects of my life. But it was surprisingly, I was going to a Huskies meeting, and then I got a text message from the University of Alberta, and they said, "Hey, do you want to go in for a meeting on Wednesday?" And that Wednesday, they gave me a scholarship offer, right? So it was in that kind of scenario, I learned that I need to be more diligent in making sure that my emotions stay in check. I could be angry, I could be disappointed, but I let it affect other portions of my life that I really didn't want it to. And obviously I didn't get in trouble or anything, but it was just not a good time for that. And that was something that I wish I could have changed.
Yeah. Like, yes, maybe you get accepted, maybe you don't, but to ruminate on that and to let it affect the interactions that you have, and to let it seep into your studies and to who you are as a person is, yeah, I don't say it's pointless. There is some utility to that because you do care about it so much, but it really takes away from your peace, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because there's so much, I view it as like, don't put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to your self-worth.
Yeah.
Is a lot of the time when we really want something, whether it be a relationship or like a fit body, status, just money, when you put all your self-worth in there, when it's taken away, like, you're reduced to ashes. Right? When it doesn't happen, it's like, then you can't muster up to do anything. And it's a big blow to your system.
Exactly.
Right? It's a great lesson to have. And it's just, I still struggle with that because I'm like, oh, I really want to be someone someday. But wait, what does that even mean?
Exactly.
What is that even? Who am I? And it's that constant reflection of, okay, like, I'm fine where I am. Like, let's say nothing happens, as long as I'm a good person, like I'm a good brother, son. Maybe I don't get anything else, but I can still be loving. I can, without more money, without all this, I don't want to change what's inside. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. And it did for a little bit. And once I realized, hey, like, I can't let this fester, right? That's when it started improving. And then once I got that scholarship, then I was like, okay, you know what? Let me reflect on this whole period of my life and make sure it doesn't happen again. So when I was doing law school or getting into that process, I didn't get the desired LSAT score that I wanted. And instead of kind of dwelling on it, I was like, you know what? I'm going to apply regardless, but I'm also going to have a couple backup plans in terms of looking at jobs after university, maybe going to do my master's, and keeping my options open so that I could study for next year and whatnot. And it helped, right? I still got into law school, but instead of dwelling on what I couldn't do and being depressed and disappointed and stuff like that, I didn't let it affect me that much. And it was a much better outcome than the last time.
Yeah. Opting for solutions instead of replaying the scenario or making doom gloom situations. It's important to just focus. What can you do, right? If it's something you can't do, don't think about it.
Yeah.
There's no point. It's like within cleaning, right? If you expect this grand thing where everything is going to be spotless and you do no action towards it, nothing's going to get done. And if you just keep on ruminating on the dirty room that you have to do, nothing's going to get done. And what can you do? That's always a question of aligning it with reality as well, right? Because ultimately things won't go up to where you want it to a lot of the time.
Yeah,
right?
like I'd say even like 85% of the time. Yeah.
Like your expectations are here, reality's here.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, I don't know, it seems to be like a common trend in my mental milieu is my expectations are here. Like I want to be a beast, right? I want to make sure I study. And when I am studying for that 2 hours, it's all productivity. But I find 10 minutes in, I'm thinking about other things like the anime that I was just watching, you know?
Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
You start looking out at the birds and stuff.
And it's like, no, this is the thing that I'm sought out to do. It's never going to be perfect. And that's okay. I can focus on solutions. There's no point in dwelling. Just optimize every day. That's all you can do.
Exactly.
How do you stay focused and motivated with a long-term goal like law school on the horizon?
With that, it's once again, it's reflecting little by little on what could be improved for next time, given the situation. But going back to like what my mom said and stuff like that, it's making sure that you're disciplined and grounded in what you're doing, but also during your free time, right? If you are spending, let's say you get up, you have class at 12. Right? If you're getting up at 8 a.m. and you're going on you're going on TikTok or Instagram until about like 10, right? Until 11, when you got to get up to go to school, you just wasted 3 hours, right? You just wasted 3 hours of nothing that you could have been, and it doesn't have to be anything. You could have played a Sudoku. You could have hung out with your parents. You could have gone for a walk. You could have gone to the gym, but you sat on your bed, right? And some days that's warranted. Some days you deserve that. But if that is a constant thing, that is just going to ruin your mental health, right? That's going to ruin everything. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a grueling mental or physical exercise. You could do something as simply as, you know, getting up, making up your bed, and then going to watch a half an hour of news or, you know, schoolwork or something before you do whatever, right? What I used to do when I had workouts in the morning was I would get up a little earlier so that I could watch a little bit of the news just in case there was an accident or whatnot. But then after a little bit, I turn the TV off, I close my eyes, and I just ruminate on what the plan was for the day. So I knew my workouts and what was being done on the field beforehand, and I would think about it, and I'd be like, okay, this is the exercise. Let's make sure we do this, right? Not focusing on any of the bad stuff, but what I want to accomplish. And if it's not accomplished, I'm like, okay, I tried, right? We can always do tomorrow. My goal during my last year during the off season was to bench 315. So every time that we did bench press, right? Me and a couple of my guys, shout out people again, Jackson, Jonathan Rosary, Riley, Safransky, those guys. They were my mentors and my rocks, right? When we were working out and stuff, we'd all have our little groups and we'd go, right? We'd do our lift and whatnot. And it was the last day of off season before we did our spring camp that I managed to hit 315. And I got that on video. I didn't even request it being videotaped. Jonathan Rosary asked another guy named, what's his name? EJ, yes. Jonathan asked EJ to tape it. And after I got my bench, like you could see, and I'll show you after this, but you could see like I'm yelling and people are yelling and they're genuinely excited for me. And that was because of them and the preparation I did every day leading up to it.
That's awesome. 3:15, man. That's not. Oh,
I don't know if I
wow.
could do that anymore, but it was amazing when I hit it.
How many attempts did you do? So you got it.
So we had phases throughout the workouts. I don't remember how many attempts because there was a lot in between. It was from like January to April. So I'd say maybe ballpark about 10 attempps. There's a lot more working up to 3:15. So, I'd go 285 and then 295 and then 300 and whatnot, whatever the increments are. But yeah, it was the last day that I got 3:15 for one. And it was a shaky one, but it was a one.
Yeah, dude. That's incredible. Shaky or not, man.
Exactly.
That's no easy feat. That's something to be really proud of. Not a lot of people can't even do 225. Actually, majority of people in the world can't do 225, let alone 3:15.
I think the math is like less than 10% of the world's population could do 225 or something.
Yeah.
But once you like zoom out and realize like in whatever you're doing, hey, whether it's a lot of people aren't doing this or I'm doing such a hard thing, it motivates you to go further, as you know, right? Especially with your like marathon running and stuff like that. If you're saying at mile 3 of 8 that, oh man, I'm tired and my back hurts, I want to go home and it's too hot and there's this girl I'm talking to and I want to text her, right? You're not going to finish. But
the way I go about it is when I'm in like the trenches, in my mind at least, what would a normal reaction merit? It's like, what would the person that's struggling do? They'd just give up. And to continuously override that, okay, I'm studying for 30 minutes. I'm 15 minutes in. I want to give up. What would a person do? The normal person do? They just give up. And with every single iteration that happens, when you get those thoughts, there's in a race or in a marathon, a lot of people become weeded out, right? Because they'll have that reaction, right? Where and then they'll go, okay, no, I got this. But 30 minutes in, an hour in, 2 hours in, next thing you know, you're just alone, right? And it's you consciously override the system of wanting to give up. And it sounds so simple, but when you're feeling it, man, it's just so it's dark sometimes,
it's
right?
dark.
But at the end of it, it's freedom. Like
once you complete it, it feels amazing.
Yeah, and like with anything, right? Getting a good grade and finally getting accepted to like law school, finally getting together with that person that you asked out, or getting to a point where you can look back and be a mentor, right? It's all just fulfillment by overriding all these things that impale us, right? By just our bodies, it's excruciating and we want to give up, but it's just building up that muscle of discipline.
I get that. Yeah. That works, man. You gotta be a poet.
Yeah, I'm trying, man. I'm writing some poems.
That's good.
But as ChatGPT does it better, though. I'm trying to be a better writer than ChatGPT, and that's my goal.
Okay, you'll easily pass that. Don't even worry.
It's continuously improving, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy. What habits or routines have you developed that help you grow personally and accidentally, or academically, not accidentally?
Okay. For me, a big thing that my mom made me do when I was younger was journaling. So whenever I feel down, it's less frequent now because I'm just super busy, but back when I have the time or whatnot, you just write a page or two down, right? Keep yourself updated. It's good for multiple reasons, right? One, because you're expressing it and you're able to put it on a physical thing. If it's something bad, you could like rip it out, burn it, throw it away. I've done that before. Really helps. But also, it's great for reflection. There's been times where I've looked back at my journal a couple years ago, and I'd be like, wow, like I was going through it. I didn't get the offer I was thinking of, or I got rejected by someone in high school and whatnot, and that was really taking a toll on me, right? And being able to look back on that and be like, wow, like I'm still alive. Like I grew up, right? I could take it. Not to say that everything that I went through is easy, and for people out there, right, not everything is going to be easy, but being able to reflect on it, and if you ever want kids, like show it to your kids and use that as an example and be like, hey, like your dad or mom went through this and look at what I did, right? For me, another thing too, I have a really good habit. Every time there is a quote that I like a personal quote, I always write it down. So I currently have about 30 life quotes that I have on just notes.
Oh,
so,
like your quotes, your own quotes.
No. I'm not that wise. Oh, yeah. No, it's not my own quotes, but for instance, my role model in football is Shannon Sharp. He is a Hall of Fame tight end. He grew up in like the slums of Georgia, living in a shack with no running water. And now he's one of the most celebrated tight ends in NFL history. And he had to start by he went to a HBCU, which is a historically Black community, or not community, college or university, right? So, and in America, that's a really big thing. It's a little tense in terms, some people view it higher than others, right? I'm sure there are people in America that view like University of Alabama is better than University of Alabama A&M, which is an HBCU, right? But regardless, he has a lot of life quotes that he got, and I would take a couple and keep them. One of the quotes that I really liked currently was, the GPS is silent. It's always silent when you're going in the right direction. And even when I was coming to your house to do this podcast, when I'm going straight, the GPS isn't telling me stay in this lane, or, hey, keep driving straight, or you're doing a good job, right? They're just silent, right? I take it as the haters, or people that you don't like, or people that are not on your side, are going to be talking the most when you're down. When I was down, especially with like football and stuff, and I'd go against other teams, they would make fun of me. There was a couple times where I made Team Alberta, which is like a provincial kind of all-star team for high school football. And I went up against another couple of guys. And while I don't know their names, even if I did, I wouldn't shout them out. But they were my ops in this one. And they looked at each other and said, like, this guy made it to Team Alberta. He's the best that Alberta's got. And we ended up losing that game because I had a run that I was supposed to do, but for whatever reason, it slipped through my hands and I fumbled, and they got the ball and they won by a couple points, right? I didn't let that affect me because I knew that I was good regardless. And I knew that they were hating on me because I was down. But fast forward a couple years, I'm on the bus to go home and I'm wearing my Golden Bears t-shirt, and I see that guy on the bus get on the bus, and we make eye contact, and I smile at him. And he looks away and he doesn't look back at me, right? And what is he doing? Because I'm up in my Golden Bears football uniform going to practice while he's going to school, he's remaining silent, because that's what the GPS does when you're going in the right direction. There's no hate to this guy. I don't hate him. We're not enemies anymore. That's just when I was younger. But yeah, that's just a memory that kind of got me reminiscent about my past when I saw that quote. So I keep those quotes in my phone and I look back on them, and hopefully one day, if I have children, I could give it to them and they could pass it down too.
Yeah. I've journaled 4 years,
Ooh,
consistently, pretty much every day, most days. I do miss here and there, but yeah, you mentioned that you were going through maybe a breakup or a rejection, or maybe you didn't get into this, or the fight with a friend, or a bad grade. You lived, right? You look back onto it, and it's like I can almost take myself back in time and feel what I'm feeling. Like music also does this. When I'm listening to some songs, I'm like, wow, like this is what I was it's little fragments of it I can still feel. And journal does no better job than any modality. Is you can actually see what you were sitting down and just everything that just poured out, and it all makes sense there. And as you were writing it, you felt it all. And when you're reading it now, years later, it's just you catapulted back into that moment, and you realize that that feeling was the same, that you're down now and you got over it. And that's something that just I take close to my heart is
exactly.
Whoa, like I am capable of absorbing a lot of this pain, or like the haters, or even some mistakes that I've done in the past. And kudos to you for not clowning that guy, going up to him like, "Hey, buddy," just like saying hi.
No, you always got to be humble.
Yeah,
that was
good.
what I was always taught.
That's good. But it's a good feeling, right? To kind of prove other people wrong. Yeah. Like to show them, maybe it's a little bit of vindication in there. Like you're vindictive, but you don't want to put them down, right? It's just like a good feeling to kind of show them, right? Like often it's not the words that make people shut up. It's like the actions. It's like the evidence.
And that's exactly it. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You like you said perfectly. I don't need to go up to that guy and say, "Hey, I got onto this team and you didn't." I don't know what he's going through. He could be going through much worse than I am. And me adding salt to the wound, right, could set him over the edge. But at the same time, right, everyone likes to be a little confident, but the smile was good, right? And I didn't bug him to this day. Obviously, I'm not going to bug him ever again for stuff like that. But yeah, like it's just you said it perfectly. And one thing is, I want to preface that, like, for us, we're fortunate that maybe our problems aren't as significant. It is obviously going to be way more significant for people that are going through a lot more, whether that is disability, what's happening right now in Israel, Palestine, right? Even the houseless community here in Edmonton, right? I see a lot of people, for instance, they're taking down these encampments saying they're a danger, but what's the point of taking down someone's own personal home, right? Just because it might be dangerous, and it could be for sure, but at the same time, you flip the coin, that is their home, right? That encampment is their only space that they could call a home, and tearing that down effectively makes it worse, right? Like there's so many examples of that. So as we're going about, like I started to realize more and more as I was growing up, from like junior high to high school, that like I'm very fortunate that my problems are typical high school, junior high, elementary problems, and not super significant. And my heart goes out to the people that are facing those, but I also believe that you guys have the strength to kind of go through that, right? So
yeah,
maybe do more than just go through it, but like persevere and show people what's up.
Yeah. And yeah, dude, it's just, there's so many problems around the world that we can't even imagine what they're going through. And Sam Harris has this quote of, if you think that's your worst problem, if you think that's the worst thing that can happen to you, that's a flaw of your imagination, because that is not the worst thing that could happen to you.
It's a good one.
Like, what the worst thing could happen to you is your entire family dies, you get cancer, you get kicked off from your sports team and school, you go to prison, and you're alone forever. And there's probably, that's not even the worst case scenario.
Yeah, that's just spitballing.
That's just spitballing. Like, there's probably worse than that.
Yeah.
And it's just, it makes you, it looks at life from like a different lens of abundance, where, oh, wow, like from that perspective, like I've got everything. I've won the lottery already.
Yeah.
Like being born in a first world country and having loving parents and a good, solid friendship, and being in a sports team and being at the U of A. Wow, I've won the lottery already.
Yeah.
A lot of people would kill to be in this position. And I do the same thing. This is my 2024 quotes. I got to show you.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, dude.
Let's go.
Great minds think. Read this. Yeah, dude. That's stuff like that where I'm just like, I'm lulled and I'm like, wait, this is so facts, bro. And I keep repeating it in my head as I'm going throughout the day. I remind myself, like, I think you'll really like the first one about desire by Naval Ravikant.
I was looking at that one. Yeah.
Like, it's desire is a contract we make with ourselves to be unhappy until we get what we want. But then it's like, it's crazy because you're gonna want something more after that, and as soon as the problem gets solved, more problems onto that. Why don't you just be content with what you've got and just be, everything is a plus?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh man, you would love this class I'm in. It's called it is Philosophy 219, Living the Good Life, and that is basically what that quote is about. So you're trying to one of the main kind of takeaways is that our lives are very up and down like a roller coaster, but you want that like just not straight line, but as minimal bumps and valleys as possible, right?
There's a study that came out from or I read it from a book. It's called The Stress Prescription by Alyssa Epple. And the happiest people aren't this.
Yeah.
Usually it's like this, maybe a little bump, because like the happiest people, they're up here are probably doing drugs or like probably living like a lavish lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the opposite of that is true is they also feel the most miserable. And that's usually the points where bad things happen, like terrible things, because you do things to yourself, to other people, say things you don't want, and you're in this headspace. But a person that's like Zen is like, bad things happen, but it's not that bad. They don't really, like, they're happy, but they're not that happy.
Yeah, you're right. You're honestly right. And even when it gets bad, like they're able to like maybe not pick themselves up, but use the resources available to get them out of that valley.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that trough. It's like, yes, I was happy, but I wasn't, compared to my day yesterday. Like, yeah, it's terrible today, but it wasn't that bad. Like, it wasn't that good. I can still go back to that normal baseline.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, thank you so much for coming on the Long-Term Podcast. I'm thankful for the moments we've had in class, for the presentations and your support with the group projects, or the group what are they called?
Yeah, the little presentation or whatnot. It was crazy.
Yeah, this guy put up with kind of the little skits that we did.
It was good. You got a couple laughs. That's the best part.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I appreciate you having me. I'll always come back. This is sick.
Dude, this is awesome, man. I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. I think you'll go far, dude.
Yeah. Whoa. Before we end, watch out for this guy. He's gonna make some big things coming up. Yeah, I don't know what it is yet, but this guy's one to watch. 20 for 20 under 20 or something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, as always, to everyone listening and watching, there is a place for you in this chaotic world. Never lose hope, strengthen your faith, and keep it long term. Cordae Hall, everyone. Peace.
That was so sick.